We'll see.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Wednesday Bible class and the Jesus Encounters series. Tonight is week 8, and in weeks 8, 9, and 10, we're going to see a consistent pattern emerge as desperate people in desperate circumstances come to Jesus. And they come with a faith that refuses to be denied. These desperate encounters reveal that desperation strips away pride. And it also, desperation helps people overcome their fears. Because some of these people have obstacles preventing them from coming to Jesus. But because they're so desperate, their desperation drives them to overcome the obstacles and to have an encounter with Jesus. These people come to Jesus with no hope left for their situation. They've tried other things and they've run out of solutions. Like me with these slides. They come to Jesus and they have no more resources. They have no more avenues to try, but they come to Jesus hoping that he can be the one that helps them. So we're going to see our theme over and over in these next 8 encounters of desperation. The Son of Man has come to seek and to save the lost. Now tonight, our theme is intertwined in 2 Jesus encounters that go together. A respected synagogue leader who's facing an immediate crisis. His daughter is presently dying. He comes to Jesus, and then we have a woman that comes and interrupts that encounter. And it's the woman that's been bleeding for 12 years. And Jackie's going to bring that to us tonight. And so tonight with this encounter, Jairus and the bleeding woman is recorded in all 3 of the synoptic gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. So tonight what we have is a special pair of Jesus encounters that we've never had before and we'll never have again. These 2 are special because they're a double header. They are a twofer. These 2 are a double whammy, a 2X, a double dip. Buy one, get one. A win-win, a 2-in-1. That's right, brothers and sisters. Tonight we have 2 Jesus encounters tied together in what is called in literature. Come on. That's right. This is our new word. It's my new word of the week. It might be your new word too. What we have tonight is an intercalation. Intercalation. This word comes to us from the Latin. Inter means between, and calation, cala or calare actually is the root word, means to call. Calare, to call. You can see how those 2 words could be related. And so what an intercalation is, it's a calling out in between. So that might not be what you and I would have called it, but that's the literary name of a story that is completely contained inside another story. So the way that this works is Jesus encounters Jairus. While he's dealing with Jairus, the bleeding woman comes and interrupts that encounter. And Jesus stops his Jairus encounter and he gives his full attention to the bleeding woman because she's there in front of him. And with Jairus, he's got to go to Jairus' house. And so he's on the way to Jairus' house, but the bleeding woman interrupts. And so Jesus puts Jairus on hold. He deals with the bleeding woman who's there at his feet. He saves her, and then he continues on with Jairus. And so that's why this is a story within a story. This method of intercalation is very popular with Mark. He uses 5 intercalations in the little Gospel of Mark. It's the little short Gospel, 16 chapters, but there's 5 intercalations. This is the only intercalation which involves 2 Jesus encounters. The rest of the intercalations are stories within stories. So a story will begin, and then there'll be another story that comes and interrupts that story, and then Mark will finish the story that he began later, the original first story. So there's 5 instances of this in the book of Mark, and tonight we're going to cover this one. It's a technique that also makes the 2 events that are intertwined important to each other. And so they're useful in interpreting and understanding each other. They go together. So Jairus' story begins. Jesus is interrupted by the bleeding woman. Jesus saves her, and then he continues on and saves Jairus' daughter. The interruption is intentional, and it deepens the tension because Jesus and Jairus are on their way to Jairus' house because his daughter is presently dying. And the fact that Jesus is interrupted and stops, it adds more tension to the story because you know that there's a time limit and the clock is ticking for Jairus' daughter. But Jesus doesn't seem to be bothered or hurried or rushed or miffed at all at the lady. He takes as much time as she needs. And so it's going to be very interesting. We're going to see how that works. So one emergency is paused to give way to another emergency that seemingly has less urgency. She's been sick for 12 years. This daughter is now dying. This lady has lived 12 years with her malady. She's probably not dying of it right now. Yet Jesus puts the dying daughter on hold, and he takes care of the woman. So the irony is, she interrupts Jesus, but she was trying very hard not to. She thought she could encounter Jesus without him noticing, but he did notice. And he noticed in a very peculiar way. I'm going to let Jackie tell you about it tonight. But it was very peculiar the way that he noticed that woman, and then he stopped and saved her. So both people tonight are driven by desperation. Both believe, this is very important, and this really stuck out to me. Both of the people have in their minds, before they encounter Jesus, what he's going to do for them and how it's going to happen. And we're going to see that. I hope Jackie points that out in the story. I'm sure she will, because it's part of the story. She has in her mind how her Jesus encounter is going to go. And it exactly goes that way, except for the fact that she couldn't do it in private. That was part of her plan as well. And now Jairus, he comes to Jesus with a plan for Jesus. He says, Jesus, I need you to do this. And he's very specific about how he wants Jesus to heal his daughter. He said, I want you to come to my house and put your hand on her. That's what his faith is. His faith is not that Jesus can speak the word and she'll be healed at home. His faith is limited to, I've got to have Jesus come over and he's got to touch her. And so that's exactly what Jesus does. He gives Jairus what he has faith for. And the same with the woman tonight. And Jackie will point that out to us, I'm sure. Both of them have barriers to coming to Jesus. Jairus is a synagogue ruler. Now, the synagogues were teaching centers and Jewish community centers that were in all the towns of Israel. It's not the temple. One temple in Jerusalem, many synagogues in all the towns, or in the towns. So he's a ruler of a synagogue. So he's a respected person. He's got some authority. He would be the person that opens the doors and locks them and takes care of the lights and cleans the bathroom, or they probably didn't have bathrooms in the synagogue. But he did the maintenance. He managed the synagogue. He was a ruler, but he was very esteemed and respected. All of these people that did this were esteemed and respected. And so because the Jewish leaders had not approved of Jesus, they probably would not have approved of him coming and bowing down to Jesus. An obvious act of worship and desperation. And so he comes and he kneels before Jesus and he's begging Jesus to come to my house, put your hand on my daughter, and she will live. And so he's taken a chance because he could lose his rulership of the synagogue. The Jews could, like we saw the man born blind was cast out of the synagogue, this ruler, Jairus, could be cast out of the synagogue for his allegiance or his loyalty or worshiping Jesus. So he's taken a chance. The woman is ceremonially unclean according to the law of Moses. No respectable Jewish man would have touched her, would have had contact with her, because he would be defiled according to the law, and he would have to go through a cleansing process. Because she was a bleeding woman, she was considered unclean. And so they both have barriers, but their desperation causes them to overcome their barriers. Both of them approach Jesus with a plan, and Jesus does exactly what their faith said that he would do. Jesus has compassion. He saves them when they have nowhere else to go. They have no more hope except Jesus, and he gives them exactly the things that they need. There's two more things that tie these encounters together. One is the number 12. Jairus' daughter is 12 years old, and the bleeding woman has been suffering for 12 years. The other thing that ties these two encounters together is Jesus, in both encounters, touches the unclean. Now, I'll let Jackie tell you about the bleeding woman. I'm not going to tell your story, Jackie. She'll tell you how that touch thing happened, but I already told you the deal about Jairus. He said, "Come lay your hand on my daughter and she will live." But here's the problem. This is the real kicker of the story. While Jesus was delayed with the bleeding woman, Jairus' daughter died. While Jesus is on the way, and he stopped to deal with the bleeding woman. And someone comes and tells Jairus that it's too late, you waited too long, your daughter is dead.